All right, kids. Unhappy Tuesday. I'm coming at you live tonight from our hotel room here at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. But as always, um, you know, coming to you live here from Fort Jackson. This is the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio, part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you, as always, for joining us from wherever you may be and whatever device you're using to stream us on YouTube. So please pull up a chair, turn up the volume if you got it. Use the company dime if, God forbid, you're still stuck at work. Crack open a cold one if that's your thing on a Tuesday night. And let's try to have some fun as we put an end to day 2 of this week's hostage situation and look forward to day 3. Day 3 being hump day. So, yeah, we rolled into town. Mason will be along in just a few minutes. I told him I was going to kind of kick this thing off and get it started and go through the sponsorship and all of that stuff. Give him a few more minutes to do what he needed to do. I didn't want him to feel rushed. We got into the hotel here a little bit after 4, after a 9-hour drive. But we are here. We are safe and sound. We did hear from Grady. So we're all systems go for tomorrow for Family Day. That'll be fun. The field where that takes place is like straight out that way, take a right, and it's like 5 minutes up the road. So should be a good time tomorrow. He says that the Family Day ceremony is pretty brief, maybe a half an hour-ish, and then we go and try to find him and tap him out. And then then it's a day on base, right? He's not allowed to leave base on Family Day, but there are a number of activities to do here. He's got some things in mind that he wants to go check out with us too. So we'll look forward to that. But so we were originally staying off base, about maybe a 10, 15-minute drive from the actual from Fort Jackson, the actual Army base, which would have been a royal bitch, because we would have had to, then you're talking about we got to get up, we got to drive over here, we got to get in line to enter the base. So you're talking 5:30 in the morning, you're sitting in your car waiting to get in. Now, I kept checking it, as this got closer. Our room actually opened up here on base. So that's where we are. It's it's a suite. So there's a bedroom. So I'm in here with the door shut. The girls, Brooklyn ended up coming with us. Liam stayed home for fear that he may fall behind in his grades again. He made a very responsible decision. I'm proud of him, though we do miss him here. But the girls are out there. They got some nice, shitty South Carolina pizza. So they just got back with that. So we're going to do the show here, and then I'm going to grab something to eat and try to chill out for the night. But we are here. So let me get through the business end of things, and then we're going to bring Mason on in so we can kick this pig and get rolling. Everyone, Michelle's favorite part of the show. We are proudly sponsored by Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Just minutes away from the sports complex, Cheerleaders brings you the area's most beautiful women on 5 different stages. Open 7 days a week from noon till 2 a.m. and until 4 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. For group information, call 215-467-1980. Also offering free parking, daily drink and food specials, a full menu, and premium selection of cigars in a cigar lounge. If you want to watch the birds and you don't feel like doing it from home, but you don't want to sell a kidney for tickets to the link, head on over to Cheerleaders and enjoy the 75-foot HD TV wall, as well as HD TV screens throughout the entire club. Once again, folks, that's Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980 for all of your group and party information. Excuse me. Goodness. Everybody, as always, bottom of the screen, always scrolling along here, greenlegion.com. if you're looking to get out on the road to catch a Birds game, or you're looking for a place for a home tailgate, you won't find a better option. Head over to greenlegion.com, click on trips and tailgates, find the one you're looking for, and if it does not say sold out, book it. Don't hesitate. You know what they say about you hesitates. So, my God, down the wrong pipe. Yeah, we were going to be in Dallas in a couple of weeks. That fell through. It didn't fall through so much as I ended up screwed with my regular full-time job. Guys, I'm going to mute this for just a second. All right, bad radio. Good God. Okay. But yeah, so no Dallas for us this year, unfortunately, due to my full-time job being a gigantic pain in the ass. Doesn't mean you can't go. If it doesn't say sold out, book away. Home tailgate, same thing. Get out in there, find the game you want to go to. If it doesn't say sold out, book it. You won't find a better way to get out on the road to catch the Birds or catch them at a home tailgate. All right. We're going to go ahead and bring Mason on in here to save the day as I'm coughing up a lung. Mason, what's up, brother?
How you doing, sir? Good evening.
Good evening. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Big day in Jersey. We had a lot of voting stuff, so I had to make sure I got that out of the way. I had a slow day at work, and so I was watching the trade deadline all day, and I cannot wait to catch up with you.
Yeah, I was listening to a lot of it on the ride out here. We left about 7 in the morning, got here at about 4 this afternoon. So long day out on the road, but it was a beautiful sunny day. So, no weather to deal with, just the Smoky Mountains to drive through, which was a peach. At one point, right near the North Carolina border, they had it down to one lane, and we were doing, 20 miles an hour for about 15 miles. Yeah, that was brutal. I was pretty pissed. But be that as it may, I did hear, so Sauce Gardner goes to Indianapolis. Right, for 2 first-round picks.
Mm-hmm. Presumably that's 26 or 27.
That's the rumor. That's what I heard. And then Quinnen heads to Dallas.
Yes, Quinnen, yep.
I didn't hear the compensation package on that one.
It's a first and a second. I think it's first for this year and a second for next year. I can get clarification on that though. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. I know I do apologize, folks. I was on the road all day long, so I am woefully behind the 8 ball here.
So the Cowboys actually, they swapped a defensive tackle. So they had Maisie Smith, who I believe that they drafted in the first round not too long ago. So they traded him, a second rounder for this year, and a first rounder for next year for Quinnen.
Got it. So all right, let's talk about that for just a second here. Now, did you watch any of that disaster last night with the Cowboys and the Cardinals?
I did not catch much of it. I had to get to bed early, but I saw some of the replays, and I saw that Marvin Harrison had a disgusting touchdown at the beginning of the game. But
dude, yeah, I mean, just cooked. Like
Prescott's very hot and cold, man. It's so weird. Prescott has so much talent. He has an arm. He can be mobile, but man, when he's not good, he's downright horrible.
Very true. But you know who he is? He's just a continuation of Tony Romo. It's the same guy. It is absolutely so. Only Dak has been more mobile. He's not quite as mobile as he used to be since the injuries, but still more mobile than Romo ever was. But it's the same guy. You turn those lights up bright, and he folds up like a cheap suit, dude. Like So I guess where I'm going with this, Mason, is you have a Dallas team that's not very good. Okay. Look, I understand they can throw the ball around. That's great. But their run game is not very good. Their offensive line needs help, and their defense is atrocious. I get it. You bring in Quinnen, that should help. Logan Wilson or whatever from Cincinnati.
Yep.
A linebacker, they're calling him a green dot type of guy, but this is also a guy that had snap counts reduced on the Bengals defense. So you trade a 7th round pick to bring in a guy that, it was on a defense that might be the only one worse than yours in the entire league.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what your upgrade is there. And now you're giving up all these picks after you got in picks for giving up for trading Parsons. Where is the improvement, or is this just Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones again?
Yeah, right. That's a really good point. I hadn't really considered a lot there before. The Cowboys are really putting themselves in a really tough spot here because they trade away Micah and they get a plethora of picks and all that kind of stuff. And it seems like, okay, they're going to be rebuilding now. So this is what they're doing. They're not going to try and go full steam ahead, even though they just paid Dak Prescott, Super Bowl or bust type money, but whatever.
And CeeDee Lamb.
And CeeDee Lamb. And so you kind of go into this not tank mode, but kind of just like reloading mode. And then at the trade deadline, you trade a 2nd round pick and a 1st round pick for a defensive lineman. That's very interesting. I feel like Jerry doesn't really know what Jerry wants. He's kind of just going by the seat of his pants here. 1 minute he wants to trade away the franchise cornerstone, and then the next he wants to trade a day 1 and a day 2 pick for a defensive tackle on the deadline day. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. They're 3-5. They're not in a really good spot, and if they really want to capitalize on it, they have to turn things around like now. But
Yes.
I'm afraid that. I'm not sure if it will.
You're not able to do that at this point in the season. Like they would have had to made all kinds of crazy trades to fix the holes that they've got.
Exactly.
Right? When you look at the rest of our division, it's a disaster. Like the Giants are not good. They still have a long way to go. Now, look, I think Jackson Dart is probably the answer, but early returns look very good on him. And, we all know Malik Neighbors is a freak. So when he comes back, you expect him to step right back into that role. Scatterbo was doing his thing. So you expect them to be a little bit more dangerous as the years go by.
Sure.
But now, so now they lose Neighbors and Scatterbo, right? So they have no receivers to speak of. The run game is Tyrone Tracy and whoever else. Washington now loses Daniels for however long with the dislocated elbow. And you have Dallas, who can't stop anyone. They're basically they are basically the NFC version of the Cincinnati Bengals. So you have 3-5-1 Dallas. What's Washington now? 3-6, and forget about it with the Giants.
Something like that.
We're sitting there 6-2. Like, it's almost an embarrassment of like. You expected Washington to be that team to keep nipping at our heels all
day. Yeah. I was expecting Washington to really kind of come out guns blazing, but you have 2 injuries of Jaden Daniels, and this is what's going to happen. But the Giants had a little bit of time there. They had a little bit of fun in the sun with some sparks, with some games. And Dallas has always been one of those teams, as long as I've been watching football. That's like hot. Like maybe I want to be competitive, maybe I don't. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. I don't know. They're either like they're just always huddling around the middle, around average, which for fans is the absolute worst because it fills you up with hope, and then it's the most painful death. A lot of fans would much rather be either 3-13 or 13-3. This flip flop, either just be really bad so I know what to expect, or be really good so I can expect to be good. But if you're just gonna be hovering around like 6-10, 8-8, 9-7, it's like that's brutal, man. And that's what the Cowboys have been for a while.
Totally brutal. And look at them this year; they can't string anything together, just like you were describing, right? So they win one, then lose, then win one, then lose one and tie. Then win one and lose 2 more in a row. It's like, what? And then you go out and make these trades, giving up all this draft capital that you really need in order to fix your holes.
That's right.
And now, look, I'm not complaining. I hope Jerry Jones lives forever. And I hope he signs Dak Prescott to a lifetime contract. Like, I'm here for it. But if I would, to think about it from a Dallas fan perspective, this has to be like, you have to be looking at it at the end of that game. Then they were horrible against Arizona, right? The defense was shit, and the offense was awful as well. Like it was an epic disaster, and it was.
They lost to the Cardinals. They lost to Jacoby Brissett.
They got torched by Jacoby Brissett, right? Like he smoked them. He threw 2 touchdown passes and ran in for another one. Jacoby Brissett was like
Yeah.
he looked like Jalen Hurts. Like, it was awful. The Dallas team, they were supposed to be good offensively. They looked like shit against Arizona. Their defense is terrible. And if you're a Dallas fan, like, okay, you lose they didn't score an offensive touchdown until the game was already over. Right? The only touchdown they had to that point was off a block punt. And that went off somebody's face.
That's right.
So, like, if you're a Dallas fan, you had to be looking at it after that loss. Like, okay, just mail it in. Let's just fold up the tents, right? We'll win the games we win with whoever we have, and we'll go into the off season with draft capital, with some cap space that we didn't spend on Micah Parsons, and be able to fix some stuff. And they're and now you've doubled down on being bad again.
Yeah, no, like I said, it's this Jerry Jones syndrome of dipping your toe in the water and pulling out, putting it in, putting out, putting it out. You're not every single year. It's a joke at this point where every single year it's their year, but they really hype themselves up like this. They really get themselves all psyched up for this just to go like maybe wild card, maybe lose no wild card, or maybe even just barely miss out on the playoffs at all, or just go like 9-8, 8-9. And so it's really got to be brutal to be a Cowboys fan under this modern Jerry Jones regime. But when you see the moves that Jerry does today, I mean, you're pulling, it's horses pulling in different directions. You don't trade Micah Parsons, get the haul that you did to avoid paying him, and then you trade it for a guy who's not Micah Parsons, who's not going to have the impact of Micah Parsons remotely, but you just lost a second-round pick and a first-round pick, and you traded away a player as well.
Yeah, like, and I get it, the 7th-round pick for Wilson doesn't seem like much, but it's still draft capital, right? It's still a pick that you can use for a punt returner, somebody, a practice squad guy, some sort of depth. And they just never have it, dude. They just don't. Meanwhile, on the flip side, you have the New York Jets, who are an abstract disaster. We all know it, right? Justin Fields is not a good quarterback. I mean, I think we all knew that in the offseason. I think he's a great kid. I think he's a great athlete. He's not a good NFL quarterback. He's just not, right? But so now they go ahead and they trade Carter Jr., Carter II or whatever to us for some draft capital. They trade Sauce for 2 first-round picks. They trade Quinnen to Dallas for a first and a second.
It's a fire sale.
And and I think it's the right thing to do. I mean, you're obviously not going anywhere. You're a disaster. But dude, so here's the Jets, right? This is what they do to their fans. They're going to try to give them all this hope going into the next draft. So now, obviously, what they're doing, they're trying to position themselves to get a quarterback. You know what the problem is? They're positioning themselves with all this draft capital for the quarterback, and it's not a good quarterback draft. It's not. Right?
Yeah.
It's not the 2024 draft, right? It's
No.
You're going to end up with a shit-ended stick here.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets are showing what Jerry Jones hasn't really showed Cowboys fans, which is commitment to an ideology, which is, you know what, we're going to sell. Sure. We're going to sell. We're not going to trade Sauce and then trade those first-round picks for another corner who's not as good and, confuse our fan base. The Jets know that they're garbage. The Jets know that they really should be winless. And the fact that they aren't is a laughing stock as it is. They know that they're bad, and so they're selling on clearance now, which is exactly what tanking teams do. That's what the Dolphins did so many years ago when they were taking for Tua. They are all these teams. It's a cycle in this league, and so you know what. You don't really get these opportunities very often. I mean, the last time we probably did this, we didn't really even sell the farm a lot for Carson. We just kind of sold a bunch of like spare parts we had. We just kind of sold spare parts we had. And we, Kiko and Byron, and we gave a lot of picks for Carson. But we never really like traded away key players like this, like the Jets are. They traded away Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams. Granted, Michael Carter is more of a depth guy, but nonetheless, it's a fire sale. And you know what? If you're a GM, you only get one shot at this. And if you don't hit it, you look like an idiot. And if you do, well, you look like Jerry Jones, who traded away Herschel Walker, and then you got the 3 rings there. So hey, you know what? It's up to them now.
At least they are committing to an ideology. That's very, very true. Russ Taylor says, Gilmore, blink if you're in danger. You look like you're in a drug rehab room. What's your safe word? So, Russ, I'm checked into the hotel here at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and it's a suite. So this small room actually has a door on it, so I'm not disturbing Michelle in Brooklyn out there while I'm in here doing this. It actually worked out really, really well. We ended up getting a hotel on base rather than having to stay off post. So it'll make our lives a lot easier in the mornings the next 2 days. But yeah, I agree. It does kind of look like I'm locked down for the night in here. Like, no sharp inanimate objects for Gilmore here. Right? Russ Taylor again. How much are they lighting Dan Quinn on fire for getting his quarterback killed when the game was over? Shades of RG3. Not a bad point, although I will give Dan Quinn a lot of credit. He got right up in front of that microphone and just owned it. He's like, yep, that's part of his game. I should have known better. This one's on me. And he did. Like, you expect everyone to do that, but sometimes guys will try to dance around it. Quinn didn't do that. He got right in front of the microphone and just said, I screwed up. And it does sound like, for Daniel's sake, it doesn't sound like it's as severe, right? Like the first look was like, oh shit, is he done for is it going to be longer than a year? What's going on?
Right.
Sounds like it's not nearly as bad as the initial returns were. So they dodged the bullet there. And I give Dan Quinn a lot of credit for just going up and taking it right on the chin and being like, yeah, I screwed the pooch, guys. This one's on me.
Yeah, and whenever a coach does that, I mean, the effect that it has in the locker room is really profound as well, where, players aren't going to, now players are like, you know what, this guy isn't going to try and find anything and everything to blame on us. He's willing to kind of take the heat on things, because a lot, I mean, you're 100% right, a lot of coaches would try and be like, oh, well, it wasn't the best play. If the execution was there, or, if he had just seen the second read, he didn't have to scramble out and all that kind of stuff. So whenever a coach can accept accountability like that, that's really big for the locker room. And so it really just kind of speaks to the kind of coach that Dan Quinn wants to be. And that's one of the reasons why I thought that, Washington was going to be a very strong contender going into this season. I mean, if Daniels does play every single game, their record is definitely different. I mean, they're definitely not, and so they're 100%. A totally different team. And so, it's a shame that, Daniels, has happened. Football gods, they giveth and they taketh away. And so it really is just a look at a draw. But for Dan Quinn, take accountability. Players love that shit.
Yeah, as well they should. And that's a great point. The locker room effect. And Quinn's been around a while, right? Like, he's a defensive guy. We get it. He kind of stays out of the offense. Kingsbury takes care of that over there. And to your point, if Daniels doesn't get hurt, and he's been hurt pretty much all year with one ailment or another.
No, yeah.
And you're exactly right. Their record is totally different if he's not banged up. That kid is really, really good. All during the offseason, my buddy's out and, do you think it's going to be a sophomore slump for Jaden Daniels? And I said no, because my thought at the time was, Cliff Kingsbury isn't going anywhere, right? So my thought was they would continue to develop Daniels under Kingsbury, and that they would have another good offensive season. And then maybe at the end of this year, Kingsbury would leave for another head coaching gig. So that slump may come in year 3. Now, I don't know if you really want to call this a slump so much as it is a bunch of injuries, but be that as it may, Washington has problems right now. They really do. And they're not young. That defense is old. And they're starting to look at, as great as Dan Quinn is on that side of the ball, you can't beat the clock. And they got to inject some youth on that side of the football for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when you were talking about Daniels and always being hurt, it really kind of rings true to the fact, in football, one of the worst kind of player to be isn't a bad player, but it's a what if player. what if he didn't get hurt? What if he could stay on the field? What if he this? What if he that? I really don't want Daniels to turn into that. I really don't. Like he's a great kid. He's a great quarterback.
He's a good kid.
He took Washington to the championship game last year as a rookie. You don't just do that by accident. And so I hope he doesn't turn into that kind of player. I mean, this is his only, his sophomore year. Carson got hurt in his sophomore year as well. And so
Carson was hurt all the time.
It's not like this is unprecedented, but
and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's another one.
Burrow. Burrow was playing like a veteran in his rookie year. In his rookie year, I don't think a lot of people remember how good Joe Burrow was in his rookie year. He was a stud. He probably could have been a Pro Bowl quarterback in his rookie season had he not gotten hurt. And so, Daniels,
that was without Jamar Chase. A lot of people need to
exactly.
That's without Chase. So
yeah,
they explode once he gets there. But Joe was already doing his thing.
Yeah,
it shouldn't have come as a surprise. I mean, he's pretty calm, cool, collected. He was like that at college too. Very mellow. Able to, the moment's never too big for him. He kind of toes that line between confidence and arrogance. Never really crosses it. Just kind of stays right on that line a little bit, dances around it. I mean, I currently I am out on Burrow because he just can't stay on the field, and the injuries he continues to get are injuries that are indicative of a quarterback that's not learning how to get rid of the football, right? Carson Wentz was the same way, right? He just never really learned.
He wanted to stay in there. Right? Yeah, he wanted to stay in there. He wanted to deliver the ball, whether it got smashed or what. You know what? When you're 6'5", you can only get away with that for so long.
That's it. Before them lower leg in. That's what I mean with Burrow. A lot of his injuries aren't like indicative, typical quarterback injuries where you throw and you smash your head into a helmet, or you get landed on your collarbone, or something like that. It's you're talking turf toe. You're talking, and he's had some freak shit happen too. Like he had the appendectomy a couple of years ago. He strains a calf, during training camp. It's like, it comes to the point where sometimes, as good as a dude is, you got to look at him and be like, brother, you're kind of fragile. People don't remember this a whole lot, but even going into that championship game with that monster LSU team, he was hurt going into that. Now, he still played well, but he was hurt going into that. You had the wrist thing a year or two ago. I mean, it's just always something with Joe Burrow. And it's really a shame because he's so damn talented.
He is.
You just don't know what's gonna end up happening with him at this point. Does he end up like an Andrew Luck where he's just like, you know what? I'm sick and tired of having to go through rehab all the time. I can't do this anymore. And he just hangs him up. You hope not, but it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, what the Ursays did, rest in peace, but what the Ursays did to Andrew Luck is a high crime. I mean, with how they treated him, and he was supposed to be the heir apparent to Peyton Manning. He was the new John Elway, and for all intents and purposes, before his injuries really started to catch up to him, he was that good. He was pretty good. He led the Colts to the playoffs. I think he even won a few playoff games with the Colts. And of course, he gets hurt.
He's the quarterback, that big comeback against Andy Reid's Kansas City.
That's right, against Alex Smith. That's right. Yep.
And huge, and the Colts come back and win.
I think it was like 35-10, and they ended up coming back. And so, but the injuries are coming, and they just abused. They didn't get Quentin Nelson until it was pretty much too late. And I always it's crazy to me that teams haven't learned their lesson after Sam Bradford. He gets drafted. I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was first overall by the Rams, and they put all the money into the exterior without investing in the interior. They didn't have an offensive line. They had traffic cones, and so what happens when you have traffic cones and a first overall pick quarterback? He's going to get hurt. He tears his ACL, and he's never really the same afterwards.
Remember something else with Bradford? He's kind of I think he was the last quarterback that got the huge rookie
CBA
deal before they structured it.
That's exactly why it came out too.
Yep. Yeah. So something to be said that too. Like, did you have all the money to go around at that point? Because you're paying Bradford all this freaking money.
Yeah.
Look, Bradford was another one. He held the ball too long. Some of these guys just don't learn brother, you got to get rid of the football. Even if that means checking it down. You just have to get it out of there. You can't hold it forever. This is not college football anymore. You're going to get killed. And it just keeps happening. Look, Carson Wentz again with the freaking shoulder now, right? I mean, he's been playing with a separated left shoulder for how long? For how many weeks now? I mean, I give him credit for the toughness, but at some point, you told that line between tough and stupid. Like, you got to get rid of the ball.
It's oftentimes a very thin line. And you're 100% right. You said you lost my mind. What you brought up about the checkdown is actually a really, really good point. And that's a really good mark of a quarterback's maturity, especially when they're young and they're rookies. Comfortability just taking the 5 yards, take the 3 yards, take the completion. I mean, John, I don't know if you ever watched a John Gruden quarterback camp, but he'd always yell at the guys like, just check it down, bro. Just check it down.
It's there.
It is right there. You don't need to be a hero. And unfortunately, when a lot of guys go on to bad teams, they feel like they have to be the hero. They feel they have to be the guy who saves a team, who throws a 50-yard touchdown to spark the crowd and to revive the city. You see quarterbacks who go to pretty okay teams do okay. Mahomes is a great example. Mahomes, he sits behind Alex Smith for a year. He's not supposed to be the guy. He's not supposed to be this first overall guy who's going to turn around the team. He is the brainchild of Andy Reid. He has everything kind of held out to him. He has Kelsey and he has Reid as offensive mastermind. He gets into an okay situation and he blossoms. And so it takes a certain kind of guy to kind of have, set their ego aside, be like, okay, I'm not the guy, just relax and let's just play. Let's be smart here. But too often they try and do everything and they end up doing nothing.
Very, very true. But I think there is something to be said for the situation going. Like Mahomes is a perfect example, right? So he goes to Kansas City. He gets to sit behind Alex Smith, who was a absolute 100% professional, right? Not a great quarterback, but an accurate one. Not a huge arm, but could pinpoint his spot.
He's a manager.
Great guy game manager. Great guy to learn from. But he's also got Andy Reid. He also had Eric Bieniemy there at the time, right? Like falling in, and then the talent around, right? So then you talk about Kelsey, and then here comes Tyreek Hill. And all of this mess. So he had, he had the building blocks around him for him
the nucleus,
flourish. Quimby and I have talked about this for years, and so has Kat. When you look at some of these other situations, like I don't want to go Carson Wentz, but when you look at like a Joe Burrow, bad ownership leads to bad team structure, right?
Yeah.
Like just take a look at the Bengals and I live in Cincinnati, so I see this shit all the time with them. People bitching about them all the time. They have like, I think 3 to 5 scouts total that they employ. That's it. So whereas us, the Birds, for example, right? The stars are perfectly aligned. You have Jeffrey Lurie, who's willing to make it look like his team is going to go into bankruptcy in 5 years to make sure he goes into escrow to get these signing bonuses. You have Howie Roseman, who is an absolute freak of a GM, right? The guy's a spaz. I don't understand why opposing GMs keep picking up the phone when it shows a 215 area code.
215
I don't get it. Code. You just know you're going to get bent over your own desk at some point, right? Like I just don't understand why they do it. But all the stars are aligned there, right? It's a great organization. The Bengals, dude, like everyone wants to recreate the Howie Roseman model, right? It's a copycat league. Of course you would. So why are we able to spend a shitload of money on the offensive side of the ball? Well, one, a lot of that is in signing bonus, right? Which it's a different pocket. But two, because you've drafted really well on the defensive side of the ball. And so you have all of this young talent that's not making shit as far as NFL money yet, right?
Right.
And you just keep looking 2 to 3 years out about, okay, I have to draft this guy because I'm not going to re-sign him, right? I have to get this person into this spot because he is going to go sign a big contract somewhere else, right? Howie is always that far out. And the only way you do that is if you have a good team of people that are evaluating talent at the collegiate or otherwise level. The Bengals spent their money on the offensive side of the ball between Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. It's 44% of their cap. Problem is they don't draft worth a shit.
Yeah.
Anywhere else because they don't have anyone evaluating the talent. Right? Like anyone can tell you Shamar Stewart was going to, should be a pretty decent guy, but Howie put Jalix Hunt, right? That guy wasn't on anybody. He was not high on anybody's freaking radar. He was high on ours. Why? Because you've got people out there looking for guys like that. The Bengals don't do any of that. And that's the stark contrast. You show me a team that's been mired in mediocrity or worse for the most part over however long, with players who are brought in, much to your point, feeling like they got to be the hero, surrounded by a bunch of dog shit, and I'll show you bad ownership. Bengals, Jets, Dolphins, Falcons, Indy to an extent, the Browns, all of the Raiders, all of them fall right in line with that. Look at Dallas, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the siren song of missed priorities, not having your priorities in alignment, in its proper order. You have areas of your team, like first and foremost, the core of Howie Roseman-ism is the trenches. Yes. Everything starts in the trenches outward. Because you can have the best quarterback, but if you don't have time, he can't do anything. You can have the best secondary in the world, but if you don't have pressure, that's really helping them out. And so it starts with protecting your quarterback and attacking the opposing one. That's something that Howie's always understood and is reflected in how he drafts and how he goes out and gets talent. We didn't trade for a running back.
He had to learn that. But he didn't always come in with that. Like, you remember, he took a backseat to Chip Kelly for a little bit because Howie at that point wasn't the Howie we see now. Now we had to suffer through the Chip Kelly disaster for Howie to become this maniac that we have now. But Howie had to learn all that shit kind of on the fly. Chip kind of showed him what not to do.
True. Yes. And the only kind of real blemish I guess there's two blemishes on Howie's record. There's the Dillard pick and then there's a Rager pick. But Rager, I don't really blame Howie on because that was a Jeffrey Lurie pick. But Dillard, that's all Howie. But nonetheless, Howie, the one thing I will say about Howie Roseman, he makes it very easy to be an Eagles fan because he is a very aggressive general manager. He's always active. And so there's no we're not like sitting around like, oh my God, does he care? Do they want to win? I'm not seeing him do any moves. Howie's like, fuck that. I'm going to trade for this guy. I'm going to trade for this guy. I'm going to trade for this guy. And he's a very active general manager. We get Jair Alexander, who was really good to start his career. Got hit with a couple injuries, hasn't really been the exact same since. So we got him on a pretty good deal. We got Michael Carter, who's good. Yeah, exactly. And we got Michael Carter, who is a rotational guy. That's what he is. He's not going to be this guy who's going to save the day, but he's going to be a guy who fills out the room a little bit, puts a little less pressure on Cooper to have to do everything. And then you pick up a guy.
It allows you to leave Cooper in the slot, which is really where Cooper needs to stay.
Right. And so you have a lot more help on the outside now. And now you have Jalen Phillips as well, who fills out that rotation. I mean, a good rotation is even better. And that's another pretty low risk, high reward.
Nolan Smith is on his way back, right?
Exactly. That's right.
Jalix Hunt is starting to come back into form. I mean, and now you add Brandon Graham in there too for his leadership and maybe about 5% of the snaps. And all of a sudden, the edge pressure, which looked like a mess,
right,
starting to look like a formidable monster again.
And I mean, you can look like I did at the trade initially, and you see a third round pick, and you're like, "Whew, okay, it's a little pricey." But take into account that hey, this guy busts. Okay, he's gone. We might even get a comp pick too. To be honest with you, so you might get a comp.
We're going to get a third rounder, I think, from Milton. Is it Milton? It's either Milton Williams or Josh Sweat.
Oh, I think it's Milton. No, it's got to be Milton 100% with the contract that he signed. 100% got to be Milton. We're gonna let him go. Worst case scenario, he just goes. That's it. Best case scenario is that he actually hits. He's a stud, and we sign him to a longer contract. He's still young. He's still in his rookie contract. So I hope a lot of people know that. And so he's a young kid. If he works out, it's great. We get a first round talent for a third round pick. That's a steal. If it doesn't work out, then guess what? You get third round picks you get third round picks with compensatory picks all the time. You're going to get one with Milton. And so it's going to be like a rinse wash. Nothing really happened. And so it's just another example of how masterful of a negotiator and trader that Howie is. And man, like I said, he makes it really easy to be an Eagles fan.
He really does. So this is Dev, who's one of my folks from the Midwest Eagles Nest. He's glad we didn't lose AJ Brown. I never thought that would happen. You're in the championship window right now. I mean, somebody would have had to blow our doors in.
Yeah,
it would have taken a mountain to say you're in your championship window, right? We're at the top of the NFC. There's no reason to trade your wide receiver one this year. Now, look, come this offseason, it's not going to surprise me at all if he gets dealt. The two reasons for the difference, one, like I said, you're in your championship window. You're in the middle of the season. You don't really want to do that right now.
That's right.
Not to mention, at this point in the year, your list of suitors a little bit smaller. Okay, you get to the offseason, and that list of suitors expands. Right. Now, I am not advocating to trade AJ Brown. Okay, I don't want anybody getting confused with that.
No, but this is the reality
of the
situation.
But you and I have talked about a little bit of AJ Brown stuff. I think each of the last 2 weeks, where there may come a time when it's time for Smitty to be that number one dog. AJ probably not a lifer Eagle. And that may very well come this offseason, in particular, if, knock on wood, we run it back and walk out with another ring. That happens, I can almost guarantee AJ Brown is on the trading block.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah. And that's a great point. And that actually kind of rings true to my earlier point on the Cowboys seeming so like misprioritized. If we had dealt AJ, we would have looked no better than the Cowboys. No better. How do you double down on defense, triple down on defense, actually? And then you go ahead and trade your number one guy.
Yep.
It doesn't exactly scream like you have a coherent vision for the future and what you want the 2025 Eagles to be. And so in that sense, I do agree that it is really good that we kept AJ. If for nothing else, it's to run it back, like you said before. And I mean, if we do win again this year, it becomes a lot easier to trade AJ Brown. If we don't win this year, if we lose in the conference or lose in the Super Bowl, it becomes a very interesting conversation. He's getting up there. How long can he sustain this? How much are we paying him? Is he worth everything like that?
How much do you want to continue to deal with the diva bullshit?
Exactly. No, exactly. And it's not like he's like Antonio Brown or Julio Jones in terms of like this perennial all pro Hall of Fame type player where you're like, you know what? He bitches, he moans, he complains, but he's Julio Jones. All right. But he's Antonio Brown. So like we could deal with it. We could deal with it. AJ Brown isn't like that, isn't that guy. I love AJ Brown. He's a fantastic player. But he's not the kind of, especially when you have the room that we have with Hurts,
I don't know,
Saquon, and you have Smith.
He misses 4 games last year and still went over 1,000 yards, right? Still had 7 touchdowns. The 2 previous seasons to that, his first 2 years in Philly, he goes over 1,400 yards both seasons. So you could make the argument that for us, he has been that guy, right? Like maybe he's not, when it's all said and done, maybe he's not a Hall of Famer, but that level of talent, at least in the short window, he has been that guy. He's gone over 1,000 in each of his 3 seasons with us. Last year being a little bit down, but again, he missed the 4 games. And now this year, 7 games in, he's only at 395 yards. So, and this is also another reason why I would not trade him at this point. And that's exactly where I was going. Is you've had an offense that hasn't really looked like it had. Maybe over the last couple of weeks it's looked better, but it's been one side or the other. Like last against the Giants, we ran it down their throat. Jalen still looked great, but it was still only 179 yards, right? It's not like we were throwing the ball over the yard. He just happened to throw 4 touchdown passes. The week before that is Minnesota, where, Jalen goes out there, him, Brown, and Smitty just light the Vikings up. But it's been an offense that has it's been a bit of a struggle, right? To see,
Right.
like, what are we? And halfway through the year, trading your wide receiver 1, it's just not good business, dude. Like, you don't want to then have to, with all the trouble that you've already got, do you then want to have to adjust on the fly?
Exactly.
Losing a guy of that level of talent and someone who's meant that much to your offense. Like I said, even come this offseason, I am not sitting here advocating for AJ to get traded. I'm just saying, if you're going to do it, the offseason is the time to do it, not right now, not at this year's trading deadline.
Yeah, no, 100%. I would disagree just a little bit. I think that with all the kind of, even if it's small drama, it would. We don't really, we're not flies in the wall in that locker room, so we don't really know how bad it is, or how bad it may not be. So this is purely based off of hearsay or just talking out of our ass here. But we're good enough to not have to deal with a lot of BS in terms of players being a little bit catty and everything like that. We're good enough to demand, like, you know what? No, bro. We don't need to deal with this again and for another year. I think that when you're a team and you want to be a dynasty, you want to have things going on all cylinders 24/7, 7 days a week for the entire year. We didn't really have a lot of this drama, of this diva stuff. With Brady and Belichick individually, but outside of Brady, everyone kind of knew what their role was. Everyone just kind of knew, like, you know what, I'm Danny Amendola. I am Chris Hogan. I am, insert Patriots player here. They knew what they all were, and so when everyone just accepts what they are, everything's a lot better. I understand where AJ is coming from, where he wants to win, but he also wants to be the reason why you win. It's like, listen, sometimes you can't have both. And that's not saying that when you ball out, you're why we lose. But we can't just win every game with you. And that's not an indictment on you. That's just reality. And so a player who refuses to accept that is going to be a detriment to the team. And that's something that I think that Howie has matured to, Lurie has matured to, and they're willing to, say, we did it with Dougie. Dougie won us the ring, and it was a power struggle, and Howie won that power struggle. And so I think that this Eagles team, this Eagles organization is matured enough to know, like, hey, we don't need to deal with this bullshit. If you want to do that, we can trade you for a first round pick or at least 2 second round picks. Get take your contract off our books, and we're fresh.
And go get a wide receiver.
Exactly.
An interesting point you bring up with the Patriots. I also think that your Amendolas and guys like that, they went after those particular guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because those were the type of guys that fit that mentality that Belichick kind of created there, right? It was, no one man above the team. It's the Belichick way. Blah, blah. I will tell you, Tom Brady became much more tolerable and likable when he got out of New England, right? Seeing him drunk, not that I wanted him to win another Super Bowl, but seeing him hammered at that Super Bowl parade, throwing the trophy around, needing help walking away, it showed human side of him that you never saw in New England, because they were not. It's just not the way things were done there. So I think that is an interesting point, but I also think it was structured. Okay, they had Randy Moss for a couple of seasons. They didn't win shit. Big gaudy stats, didn't win a damn thing. Right? It made more sense when guys kind of fit that mentality of
exactly
that team. And
you got to
that's why
put yourself aside.
And Welkers and and James White and guys like that, who could have gone and signed deals probably for a little bit more money somewhere else, but took a little less because Brady took a little less.
That's right.
Everyone took a little less to keep that nucleus together. And,
100%.
And you see some of that with Philadelphia too, right? Everybody's getting bigger signing bonuses, but like AJ and Smitty could have gotten paid big time somewhere else.
Yep.
You take a little less, and look what happens, right? Now you can pay your offensive line. You can pay Saquon Barkley. You're going to pay Jalen Carter this coming off season, right? You're going to be able to. Zach Bond gets the money. These are all things you can do when you get guys to buy into that. So I do think that's a nice comparison there.
Yeah, and
Andy joins us. Hey, cool kids, what's up, darling?
And real quick to finish up on that Patriots, the Patriots point, they had everything in 07 and in 2011. They had Welker. In 2011, they had Hernandez. They had the greatest, probably two-headed monster in a tight end room that we probably ever seen ever. You have Randy Moss. You have Wes Welker. You have Tom Brady. You have everything theoretically that you need, and you still lose not once but twice. And so it's a very powerful lesson that when you try and you go for prolificness, you try and go for it all. 2013 Broncos, same thing. It doesn't always end up like that. The only exception to that might be the Rams in 1999 or 2000. They had a great show on turf, and then they still ended up winning. But sometimes it's all about taking the back seat. And if you're the Eagles, you're Howie Roseman, you're Jeffrey Lurie, you've matured through 2017, through 2022, through 2024. You know that you don't win Super Bowls on drama. You win Super Bowls on people being mature enough to sometimes take a back seat and for the greater good of the team. And Exhibit A is 2017. Exhibit A.
Well, take a look at that greatest show on turf, though. Yeah, they won in '99. But then they're back there they're right back there the next year, and they lose, right? They lose to the Patriots. They lose to a better team, right? I mean, you had the big gaudy numbers of Warner and Falk and and Bruce and Holt and all these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But the better team was the New England Patriots, and
that's a really good point.
Yeah,
it wasn't the better roster; it was a better team.
It was the better unit.
That's right. It wasn't a better roster. It was a better team.
And better coached. I mean, let's be honest. They were far better coached. I mean, God bless Jeff Fisher. He did a good job and everything, but like it just built.
Dude, those Rams. Those Rams were all. I mean, that was all talent.
They turned the ball over too much. They got away with it over the course of a regular season.
Mike Martz is an offensive genius, but man, you have Kurt Warner in that era. You have Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Marshall Faulk, Orlando Pace. You have all these guys who are I just named every single one of them was probably a Hall of Famer, if not already. And so, the offense at that point is going to speak for itself. And so, when they go up against those Patriots in 2001, you're 100% right. They didn't lose to the roster; they lost to the team, and that's exactly what I think the Eagles have matured to. And that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons why, like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if AJ's down, because I think that if we can survive this and we can win one more, count your blessings, okay? Because we don't want to have that internal strife, because teams don't win on internal strife.
They don't, and you'd be talking about AJ Brown, who will turn 29 next summer, right? So that clock starts ticking a little bit. Now, he's not old, and he is a receiver, and these guys get treated a little bit more with kids' gloves. Not only he's getting beat up like a running back, but AJ's physicality and the way he plays allows him to get dinged up a little bit more. And let's be honest, already again this year, because he missed the Giants game, hit these freaking hamstring issues seem to crop up every single season. So, how healthy is he going to be once you get to 29, 30, 31 years old? Do you want to double down on that contract? Or if we're fortunate enough to make a deep run, knock on wood again to win the whole thing, is that the time? Because his stock is never going to be higher than it will be at that point. Is that the time to deal him? And that's why I'm looking at it like it would not surprise me. Not advocating for it. I'm going to keep making that clear. I don't want to get my head chewed off here.
You're going to get clipped.
We all know how great AJ can be. And I love the guy. Not advocating for it, but it's a reality. At some point, you're not. At some point, you're not going to pay Smith and Brown. You're not, right? And Brown is probably the odd man out.
No, 100%. And Howie, if for nothing else, has learned that you can't have both at once for too long. You can't have everything at once. And so, you gotta enjoy it while you have it, but then you also got to be ready to let it go. And you can't hold on to things because of nostalgia. And you can't hold on to things because they're from Philly and they're from this.
Oh,
and
we
they're from
learned that after the 2017 Super Bowl, right?
Exactly.
We held on to dudes that just because they were part of that roster, we held on to them too long, and it hurt. It cost us, right?
Yep.
That's a big reason why Carson ends up with that ragtag receiving core in 2019, right? There's just nobody to throw the fucking ball to. Greg Ward is your number one wide receiver.
Exactly.
Right? You know, well, actually, Zach Ertz was the number one wide receiver. Let's be honest. You know?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
all right. I don't know, maybe another 10, 15 minutes here. Let's talk Green Bay, dude. Now, we can talk about the Giants all we want. That game was almost over at the coin toss, right? So Saquon finally gets going. Him and Tank Bigsby both go over 100 yards. Now, I am very anxious for the injury report tomorrow to come out to see where Saquon's at on that. But, him, Dickerson, Jurgens, those are kind of the biggies we want to see where they come out on the injury report. But I'm going to ask you something, Mason. I want you to run with this for me here. Green Bay, all right? They start the season off 2-0, and they look 100% poised to just rip through their schedule on their way to a Super Bowl berth or a Super Bowl contention. Since that time, they're 3-2-1 with losses at Cleveland and home against Carolina, and the tie is Dallas. Their wins are Cincinnati, Arizona, and Pittsburgh. So I'll give you credit for the Pittsburgh one, but Cincinnati and Arizona are not good teams. Who the hell is this team? Who the fuck are the Green Bay Packers? They are so Jekyll and Hyde. We talked about this with Dallas when we first got going here, where they can't string anything together. Look at this freaking Green Bay team. They come out like world beaters, and since then it's been like you have no clue which Jordan Love you're getting each week. And now Luke Musgrave is going to have to step into that number one tight end spot because they lose, who was it?
Tucker
Kraft, for the season. So, tell me your opinion. Who the hell are the Green Bay Packers at this point?
So the Green Bay Packers are, of course, dealing with imposter syndrome. It's a fatal disease. It's a fatal syndrome, fatal diagnosis. And it's got to hit a team, at least one team a year. They get high on their supply. They get stuck in the preseason. This is a preseason team. This is a team that is so stuck on what was supposed to be that they aren't able to, every single game for the Packers feels like a trap game at this point. That's not how you want to play the entire year. You don't want to have to constantly fear about each and every single team. Not saying that, other teams don't, strategize and watch film and all that kind of stuff. But when every single game is a trap game because you don't know what you're going to get, another recipe for disaster. And especially for an Eagles team who is almost starting to find its identity just a little bit. I don't want to give anybody's hopes up too much, but I am wary about the bye week kind of effect. I think that a lot of the times teams are rusty coming out of bye week, especially if they don't take it seriously. So I hope that doesn't hit us, but God willing. But this Packers team is still trying to find its identity. They traded for Micah Parsons. They drafted a first-round wide receiver for the first time since 2004, I believe. They have Jordan Love. They have a pretty decent offensive line, but there's nothing. They keep throwing shit at the wall and nothing's sticking. This is a team that should be dominating people, especially if this is the Jordan Love of yesteryear with how he used to play. But it's not. And, I'm not going to lie. I've seen the Eagles teams play like this as well. I've seen Eagles teams get lost in what was instead of what is. And it's keeping you from doing adjustments, everything like that. And so the Packers are actually probably at a really good point in order to snap out of it. If there's a game where they do it, it has to be this game. Because they can't if we just demolish Green Bay, man, that might. I mean, they're still going to be what 6-3-1, but
Yeah, so they
they're
are.
a bad 6-3-1 team.
I would agree. I would totally agree with you. So they are right now 5-2-1.
5-2-1. Okay, that's a little.
So you lose this one. Now you're 5. If we go in there, and even I would tell you, because they're home and because of the way last year went between the two of us, where we opened their season with a loss and we ended their
Right.
season in the playoffs, this is a game that they should come out firing, pissed off.
Exactly.
They got Micah Parsons added to the mix, who already has a vendetta on us from his time in Dallas, right? This should be a game where Green Bay has their poop in a group. And Keenan brings up a good point here, and I was trying to remember the number. I thought 4-0 after the bye, Sirianni. So the teams have been prepared pretty well. And, this bye week, I think, once again, we get another season where the bye week comes at a really good time for us. We were a little banged up, right? AJ with the hamstrings. Landon and Juergens both dinged up, right? Lane Johnson's been dealing with some ailments, but although he's been out there. Now you had this 2 weeks, and it's more like 15 days because we don't play till Monday night. So you've got this huge amount of time to get healthy. Saquon Barkley, same thing. While I agree with you, this should be the game where Green Bay should get right. They're coming into this game against an incredibly well-rested and hopefully well-adjusted Philadelphia Eagles group that is also looking to come out and fix identity issues as well. Continue with some sort of consistency.
Don't forget how utterly hyper-competitive the NFC North is. Yes. Packers 5-2-1, Detroit 5-3, Chicago 5-3, and Minnesota's 4-4. I mean, everyone's nipping at everyone's heels there. You really can't afford to slip behind. And so Green Bay knows it. Green Bay feels the pressure. And so are their backs against the wall? Yeah. They just lost to Carolina. Of course their backs against the wall.
Dude, they lost to Carolina and Cleveland.
No, 100%. And so, I mean, who they had after us? It's us. Then it's the Giants.
Yeah.
So maybe you eat this. Maybe you eat this one, and you're 5-3-1, and then you have like Aaron Rodgers moment. It's like I think we run the table.
Yeah, but then your next 3 games after that are all division games. You're home for Minnesota, at Detroit, home for Chicago,
and then Broncos
at Denver, and then at Chicago, then home for Baltimore, and at Minnesota. It does not. That Giants game might be the only, and I'm using air quotes, layup left.
Yeah.
But a team that can lose to Cleveland and Carolina can also lose to the Giants.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no. After this, it's the Giants, and it's Vikings, it's Lions, it's Bears, it's Broncos, it's Bears, it's Ravens, it's Vikings. That's brutal.
And keep in mind that Ravens game, early in the year, you might have looked at it, the Ravens might have that division locked up once Burrow went down. Well, now the Ravens have stumbled out of the gate so bad, they're going to need that game at the end of the year.
Oh, yeah.
So they're going to,
it's the second, it's the second last.
Yeah, if that's a healthy Ravens team, dude, that's unpleasant.
Oh, they're trying.
That game.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. So Green Bay, I think they know they need this game. For us, on the other hand, look, when you only play 17 games, every game is important. And our schedule does not get any easier either, right? So we at Green Bay, home for Detroit, at Dallas, home for Chicago, at the Chargers.
Maybe the Raiders.
The Raiders is a layup.
And it might be Washington if Daniels stays out. Yeah.
If Daniels is out, then those Washington games they lose their punch.
That's right.
The Buffalo game, I looked at that at the start of the year that maybe that one wouldn't mean as much for either team, but now you have New England who's at the top of the conference. So Buffalo may very well need that game at the end of the year. Drake May's an MVP candidate. It's ridiculous.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and he's got no skill position, guys. None. There's no stud wide receivers or running backs there. May is doing this. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But so it's pretty important
playing pretty well
for both teams. And he is. Yeah. I think there's another trade thing. So let's look at our conference again. You saw Seattle went and got Rashid.
Rashid Shaheed.
Shaheed from
New
New
Orleans.
Orleans. They're going to package him up with Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's leading the entire world in receiving everything.
Dude, he's lapping.
Yeah,
like he has 100 yards on Chase.
Yeah, with Sam Darnold, I don't get it.
He apparently didn't even know he hadn't thrown an incompletion at halftime. Someone told him, which is
I don't know why anybody would. Why would you?
Which is akin to telling a pitcher you have a no hitter.
Yeah, you don't ever say it. Like just shh.
Shut up, asshole.
Yeah, so that means Seattle's going to be a problem, right? I think San Francisco goes the way of the dodo eventually. There's just too many injuries on that squad. I feel bad for Christian McCaffrey. San Francisco is
such a shame.
It is. I feel bad for McCaffrey because he's basically Christian and the McCaffrey X on the offensive side of the ball at this point. Yeah, look at Seattle as a team that's going to be right there up against us. But yeah, I mean, this Green Bay team, dude, I don't know what to make of them. I don't fear Micah Parsons. He's gotten his stats against us. I'm not trying to say he hasn't. But in particular in the run game, we have done a really good job of just taking him out of the play. And you do that by basically just running the ball directly at him and just overwhelming him with beef, basically. Just shove him right out of the way.
If we start calling RPOs again, where he is the option player, you make him throw himself out of the play. And it's that easy. That's what we did throughout 2017. And whenever we venture too far from it because we think we get too wise, and then we come back to it, and then we just start, steamrolling teams. No, RPOs are a fantastic way to pick out and target a really good stud on defense and make him neutralize himself, make him choose wrong. And I think that's exactly what we'll do, Micah.
Make them move him around. Make them move him to where you want him. Take him out of plays. And that's it. We've done a really good job of that. Like I said, don't get me wrong. He's had his tackles for loss. He's gotten his sacks.
Well, yeah, he's Micah Parsons.
He's just that. He's Micah Parsons.
He's Micah Parsons.
But they've been, in a lot of cases, the big plays that he's made, they haven't been at, most of the time, big impactful moments, I guess would be the best way I'd look at it. It's not like you'd be looking at him. It's like, oh, he's the MVP of the game. They're going to win because he got a sack or two, but
he looks good, but he's not going to win DPOY.
No.
Yeah.
No. All right, Mason, final thoughts, brother. Then I'm going to go get something to eat.
Final thoughts. I hope that the bye doesn't cool us down. I hope that we continue the Sirianni legacy or tradition of winning after the bye. We have a Packers team that, like you said, is having an identity crisis. It doesn't know what it is. It doesn't know what really wants to be. It paid a huge price for a generational talent, and they really don't have anything to show for it except for really embarrassing losses and easy wins. But if there's any game for them to turn it around, their backs against the wall, they're in a really tight division, and they got to make a name for themselves, it's probably this game, if not the Giants. And to be honest, I think that they want to get right on this game so they can kind of coast for the Giants, and then they can, bury down the hatchet and to go through that final stretch of the season. And so the Packers, I don't think they're going to be the Packers that you saw last week against the Panthers. This is going to be a Packers team that's going to come out swinging because they know they have to be, because they know that we are probably one of, if not the best team in the NFC, and they have to make a name for themselves. They have to re-cement themselves in the conference, and it all comes down to whether or not we play like we did against Minnesota, against New York, or if we play like we did against New York in MetLife, or if we just look, disorganized and we revert backwards. It's going to be really interesting to see which team progresses and which team regresses, but something's got to give.
I 100% agree with you. I am going to go. I'm going to play the homer card here. Okay. I love the additions we've made coming under the trade deadline. I like the depth at the corner spot. Jair Alexander, provided he stays healthy, has the potential to solidify that CB2 spot that we've been so desperately needing all year. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that starts happening in this game, and we're going to desperately need it against a very young, talented Green Bay wide receiver core. For me, it's a lot about the sudden changes and the depth that's going to come at that edge rush position, right? Jalex Hunt, we talked about, starting to come back into form here. You add BG. Now you make a trade, and all of a sudden, this weaker spot, starts to look more formidable. And that's the bread and butter, is to get that pressure around Jordan Love. You got to keep him contained because he can get out and move. But the way we design it is to keep it in the pocket and make him step up in the Carter and Davis. I think we're successful doing that on Monday night. I don't need it to be a huge, gaudy stat night on the offensive side of the ball. I loved what we did against the Giants. I want that to continue. That was the ratio I've been bitching about all year. 20 pass attempts, 23 pass attempts, 30-something to 40 rushing attempts. You bring up the best point of the night, though. We got to bring the RPO back into the mix. And there's no better time to do it than against a guy like Micah Parsons, so you can just target that dude and shut him right out of the play. I like the Birds, maybe 27-21. Nothing high scoring, no crazy shit. You know what I mean? 6-7 point victory somewhere in there. 24-17, somewhere in that range. But I think we continue what we did against the Giants. Not going to blow them out, not going to blow Green Bay out like we did New York, because Green Bay's just a better team. But
yeah, I think I like 27-17.
Well, and the other thing I like is the weather's supposed to be shit. It's supposed to snow and be cold. And that kind of fortune favors the strong. And that's your offensive line pushing people around. That's your run game. Give me Barkley. Give me Bigsby. Just pound. Come right down your throat. And I like it. I like that. I like the victory. You want a 10-point victory? I'm here for that too. 27-17 works just as well for me, baby.
I think we can sack Love 4 times. I think we get a pick. I think we win by 10.
Hey, sounds good to me, man.
Gotta speak into existence.
All right, kid. We'll keep in touch throughout the week. I am going to jump immediately off of here though and go hang out with the fam and get ready for tomorrow. We got a big couple days here, but you'll hear from me probably later this week. We'll start looking at next week. I know your work schedule is a little wonky next week, so we got to figure that out. But we'll get that figured out as we get through the week. Sound good?
Awesome. Can't wait.
All right, folks. As always, thank you again for joining us, whether you join now or you watch and listen later. This has been the Unhappy Gilmore Show with the MP. And we will come back at you again. Come back again next week. Don't quite know the day yet. We'll figure that out as the week gets on. Until then, folks, don't do anything I wouldn't do. Get on through this hostage situation. Get to the weekend. Remember that Judge ain't back in until Monday. And as always, Mason,
go Birds.
Go Birds. Take care, y'all. Be good, brother.
Be good.